Today, we will discuss how Eurovision can be used to challenge gender binarism. I will argue that Eurovision largely fails to challenge gender binarism, however, there are methods it employs that are successful. To clarify, I interpret a challenge to gender binarism as an act which lyrically or performatively doesn't conform to a binary gender in the context it was performed and thus disrupting the binarism. I think it's important within this discussion to understand what gender is, and these quotes help us do that. In the first quote, Butler suggests that gender is completely external and can only appear internal by way of constant gendered performance. This quote highlights the importance of politics and culture to what gender is and reinforces its fluidity as something that changes over time and is contextually dependent. In the second quote, Butler here is suggesting that the internally discontinuous gender performance consisting of gestures and acts is entirely reliant on historical situation rather than natural fact. This is posited by her suggestion that gender is a project which has cultural survival at its end. De Beauvoir's famous quote, "One is not born, rather becomes a woman," suggests that the individual learns how to do their gender and further illustrates the unnatural quality of gender. I feel that this famous quote nicely summarizes the external conception of gender, which is informing my understanding of the gender binarism. So we can take our understanding of gender and use it to inform our understanding of the gender binary. I've selected this quote to take this understanding from one context to the next. So the quote makes clear the importance of heteronormativity to gender binarism. Butler is suggesting that the heterosexual contract creates a binary gender system as one within which the possibilities of gender are limited to two. Thus, the gender binary consists of two genders which are opposites. Additionally, we see the gender binary intertwined with heteronormativity. This will inform a discussion of how the Eurovision Song Contest can challenge this binarism. From the outset of the Eurovision Song Contest, it has reaffirmed rather than contested the binary with regards to women. By failing to challenge the gender roles of women, the Eurovision Song Contest is inherently not challenging the binarism, as if it is not challenging one part, it cannot be challenging the other. The two are codependent. An important example of this is the competition's first winner in 1956, Liz Assia from Switzerland. In Western Europe during the 1950s, strict gender roles in line with societal expectations were imposed. Although women enjoyed modest freedoms such as the right to vote in some parts of the continent, considerable inequalities persisted. These were sustained by expectations that women were to focus on being hardworking, obedient housewives rather than pursuing higher educational professions. These factors are reflected in the lyrics of this song. In the chanson style, this song mourns the singer's youth. Considering this line is demonstrative of how the song paints Assia's ultra-feminine image and upholds the ideal for womanhood in this context. The lyrics, Jardin plein de soleil où je croirais enfant, partout je te cherchais, mon aimerait longtemps, cultivate motifs of innocence, purity, and self-restraint. These themes illuminate the ideal woman of the era whose anchor in life is her lover. In these ways, this performance reinforced the gendered binary and shows that the Eurovision Song Contest's capacity to challenge the gender binary is contextually dependent. This performance set a precedent for the continued maintenance and confirmation of gender binarism in the Eurovision Song Contest, which occurred throughout much of the 20th century. This is demonstrated through the traditional feminine stereotypes and overemphasized femininity of female performers. On your screens, you can see two examples of this in the 1967 Sandy Shaw and 1969 Lulu. The physical presentation of these women along gendered lines, including notably the pink hair, light makeup, slim figures, stylized hair, posture, including foot placement, all conform to the gender binary. This reaffirms the importance of context on Eurovision's ability to challenge gender binarism, as not enough cultural and societal change had yet occurred to allow for the binarism to be disputed. Consideration of Poland's 2014 performance of Musławienie shows how this reinforcement of the gender binary continues in Eurovision to this day. Observing the lyrics of this song conveys a concrete connection between Slavic ethnicity and pride with feminine beauty and heterosexuality. This is seen by the repetition of Slavic alongside charming beauty, which represents the gendering of the Slavic ethnic group. Additionally, this performance provides no tangible challenge to the gender binary with lyrics such as nature, our call, and Slavic blood, which denotes a natural order and standard within which these women are operating. This reflects the current Polish political, and social context, which is yet to legalize same-sex marriage or introduce any tangible legislation protecting LGBTQ+ families. This performance is in support of the gender binary, as seen by the suggestion that the gender binary is natural. In these ways, Eurovision cannot challenge gender binarism, specifically regarding femininity. Russia's Dima Berlin delineates how Eurovision can challenge gender binarism. Let's start with some context regarding gender and sexuality in Russia today. The Russian public largely fails to accept gender and sexuality diversity and has overtly supported legislation discriminating against homosexuals. Despite the decriminalization of homosexuality, there has been sustained intolerance towards the LGBTQ community and groups within Russia. Additionally, strong gender roles persist in most Russian spheres. Regardless, Berlin's 2008 win with Believe challenges the gender binarism through his disruption of heteronormative performance in his act. This is actualized by Berlin's performance of machismo and incorporation of kitsch elements, including the ice skater and performers wearing matching white costumes. However, contextually, Berlin can only challenge gender binarism so far as by performing metrosexuality and remaining sexually ambiguous. As we saw with Butler's description of the binarism, heterosexuality is key to upholding this binarism. Thus, as Berlin performs metrosexuality in this 2008 performance, he is challenging the binary. However, this performance does not reflect the challenge of the gender binary outside of the Eurovision Song Contest in Russia. The act was seen by observers as an effort to promote a modern image of post-Soviet Russia, rather than the culmination of cultural or attitudinal change within the country. This was confirmed by continued state-sanctioned homophobia, along with the violent repression of police by police of a pride demonstration in Moscow on the day of the Eurovision Song Contest final in 2009. In this way, Eurovision provides a space to challenge the gender binary and can be successful by increasing visibility to gender nonconformity. Despite this, Eurovision cannot eliminate gender binarism. However, Eurovision can challenge the gender binarism through camp. So what is camp? Camp is a style of excess, artificiality, bad taste, and unrestrained theatricality, which has come to be commonly associated with Eurovision, along with queer identities, particularly following the turn of the 21st century. Camp is essential to how Eurovision has and can continue to, in the future, challenge gender binarism. Camp is linked to expressions of queer identity and inherently challenge the gender binary by challenging heteronormativity. Additionally, camp is capable of disrupting the gender binary by celebrating nonconformity. Considering Ukraine's 2007 entry, we can observe how, through camp, the Eurovision Song Contest challenges gender binarism. First, some context. Socially, Ukraine endures considerable gender inequality based on patriarchal attitudes and ingrained gender stereotypes held in traditional Ukrainian culture. Further, the country has been classified as a kleptocracy and categorized by the Human Development Index as on par with Moldova as the poorest countries in Europe. This climate informs consideration of Ukraine's participation in Eurovision. Considering the Ukrainian Eurovision entries from 2004 to 2021 demonstrates that Ukraine largely sent entries conforming to the traditional gender model, i.e. featuring a lead female singer conforming to representations of gender, with the exception of 2005, 2017, and 2018. This made Verka Serdushka's 2007 performance of Lasha Tumbai all the more symbolic. This performance is demonstrative of the role Eurovision plays in redefining sexual freedom and gender expression in Ukraine in the post-Soviet context. Danilko's Serdushka character embodies camp. Her stage outfit alludes to conservative uniforms such as that of soldiers or nurses, but made in a camp style. We can see a connection between Danilko's representation of Serdushka as a character as reflected in the creation of fake female avatars in online spaces by male users. In this way, Eurovision is able to challenge the gender binary by bringing up a challenge to the binary occurring in an online space into actuality. Additionally, the contest is a space for post-Soviet reflexivity and redefinition of sexuality and homosexuality specifically in modern Ukraine. Given the clear connection between heteronormativity and the maintenance of the gender binary, evidently this represents a challenge to the binary. Additionally, this confronts the gender binary further by initiating discourse on abnormal sexuality and gender debates beyond the show. So what can we conclude? Efforts efforts to challenge and question the gender binary within Eurovision are encapsulated by the victory of the Italian band Maneskin at the 2021 Eurovision Song Contest. The group epitomizes the use of camp and queer identities to defy against gender binarism. Despite this, due to the external nature of gender, it can only be temporarily challenged by a certain act or acts. Thus, Eurovision itself cannot eradicate binarism. However, it does, depending on the context, allow for challenges to the binary, which over time may contribute to a cultural shift away from binarism. So here are my discussion questions. How does performing queerness disrupt the gender binary? And can we provide some examples of this from the Eurovision? Do you think that lyrics or visual elements are more important with regards to challenging the gender binary through Eurovision? And what examples could you provide to support your opinion? And then finally, that is just my bibliography. Thank you.